You're watching another Nerd Stalker interview. Welcome to another Nerd Stalker interview. Good evening. This is Greg Laurie, aka Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. We're continuing our Kickstarter Unboxed segment, where we highlight existing and post-Kickstarter entrepreneurs and their stories. And today I'm pleased to talk with Jason Browne, CEO of SPOR Chargers, live from Philadelphia, PA, here on Google Plus Hangouts. And SPOR has designed and developed an interesting product, portable solar battery chargers that act as a battery storage charger, and that's charged by the sun or by an outlet, or even customizable 3D printing, which I love to talk to him more about that. You know, if that's what your bag is. A little bit about Jason. He's been involved with startups after graduating from Drexel University in Pennsylvania, and it sounds like this has just been a interesting dream of his to just try to start a company in the Philadelphia area. Unfortunately, his co-founder David Hunt can't join us right now, but he was instrumental in kind of putting this whole interview together for us. So I appreciate that, David. So good evening, Jason. Thanks for joining us here on Nerd Stalker.
How you doing, Greg? Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Do you want to add anything about yourself that you want to tell the Nerd Stalker audience?
Yeah, I've been graduated for almost a whole week now.
No, you serious?
Yeah, no, I graduated last weekend. I technically graduated at the end of the winter term. The Drexel's like a quarter system. I graduated a term early, so I have had some running moon.
Oh, I see. So basically, you were out of classes for about half a year, but you got your cap and gown on and got your diploma a month ago, right?
Yeah. Do it for the parents.
Yeah, well, I think you've been busy in the meantime, my friend. It sounds like, and we'll talk about that. So anyway, so let's jump in. Let's talk about the Kickstarter campaign that you guys are almost concluding pretty soon. I think Monday will be your last day. At the time of our broadcast, SPOR's Kickstarter campaign has over 1,100 backers and about at 82% of their goal, about $82,000. And so, tell the audience what made you launch this product.
When did I launch the product?
Or why you launched the product.
So it's kind of a long story. You asked me pre-interview, how I came up with it, and it's kind of a confluence of reasons. First being, my research into solar energy and understanding the technology. What I learned through kind of my experience in the solar industry is that solar, the cells, the actual hardware to generate electricity isn't expensive. And not only is it not expensive, it's getting cheaper and cheaper every day. However, you don't really see that being reflected in the costs for wholesale solar or the cost for, home systems. What I found is that it's mostly soft costs. So soft costs being installation, inversion, permitting, regulations, things like that, engineering. So part of my, reasoning behind doing SPOR was to match the price of solar with what people are actually paying to use it. And so what I wanted to do was kind of go down market. I was taking a couple classes on disruptive innovation, and I kind of saw this as that. I saw this as a small-scale solution to an increasingly large market of small-scale needs. Right? So that's kind of part of it, and then the other part of it, a lot of this is behind the daisy chaining and some of the features behind SPOR. Was my interest at the time in Arduino and a couple other prototyping systems. So I was playing around with an Arduino. I wanted to make a blind for my room. I had a dark room. I had these really big blinds, but it was right on the street. So I didn't want to just have them open all night. So I wanted to just build a small little system that would open them in the morning. And I realized that the Arduino itself Arduino and the motor was going to require power, right, to run. And unless I wanted to replace the batteries every 2 weeks, it was going to have to be something I was going to have to plug in. So I was like, well, it should just be a solar panel to run this thing, right? And that was that was my aha moment, almost realizing that it's not just I didn't even start this for phones necessarily. I started it to power systems, speaker systems that you just wanted to hook up somewhere, just remote power applications. And then as I did my first 2 co-ops for a finance company. And then, about halfway through my second co-op, I just got really I got into like the maker. I got like the maker bug, I guess you would call it. And I've always kind of been a maker, but I joined the maker space and I just loved it. And then so for my third co-op, I just completely bypassed finance and corporations, and I just pretty much worked under an inventor for about 12 months. Just
Wow.
taught me how to machine, taught me how to basic electronics, programming, databasing, kind of all over the board.
Wow.
So he also had other interns. One of the interns is now one of our co-founders. He was the product designer for SPOR. So we kind of took SPOR from this literally as cheap a solar panel as you can get with a battery tied to the back of it to what you see right here, which is like a consumer-facing, pocketable product, basically, which serves the same purpose. Power on demand wherever you want it, that self-regenerates itself, and that's what it is. And the daisy chaining feature, meaning you can buy multiple of these, kind of tie them all together in a system. So now you don't have to buy a larger battery. You just have a system of these spores that are all interchangeable and all kind of can go their own way, basically.
Yeah,
so
you could daisy chain it from what I saw on your product announcement, and you could use either wall power or solar to recharge it, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So the battery, basically it's a battery, right? And the battery, there's a lot of ways to charge that battery. You can charge it from a wall, you can charge it from an outlet, it can charge itself from the solar that's on top of it. The blue that you see on top of there is solar. So it's passively, anytime that it's in the sun, it's passively recharging itself. It's
cool.
rejuicing itself. So it's more of like I said, a passive recharging capability that will constantly keep the battery topped up. And then you can also charge it from another one of these. So if one was at 100% and one was at 0%, after a couple hours, they would both be at 50%. If that makes sense.
Wow,
They level themselves out in a system.
And it's small. I think one thing I liked about it was kind of a small footprint, and that was kind of a nice. You guys came up with a nice size. I don't know how to describe it more than that. It was just a nice size. It'll go in a pack. It'll go in it'll go almost anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people have different comments about the size. I've honestly heard that it's too small. People don't believe me that I have that big a battery in it. But I have some people saying, is it going to get smaller? It will definitely get smaller. As the technology improves, as we finalize the design for manufacture, it will definitely get smaller, more compact, more durable.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, it's just a prototype, right? It's our basic. This is what I think it's going to look like.
I mean, I think as battery technology gets better, also you could keep the same footprint and probably the capacity will get better. There's a lot of ways you could go with that, right?
And that's kind of, that's a great point. This technology that we're playing in right now is evolving so quickly. Like I mentioned before, the solar technology. They're coming out with new solar technologies, every week. Same with battery technologies, and circuit boards are just getting cheaper. They're using supercapacitors now. There's all different kinds of pieces of this product that can be innovated. So what we wanted to do building it was break it into its basic components, right? So I'm not outsourcing the manufacture of this to any manufacturer, right? I am assembling it. I'm assembling it from batteries made from this manufacturer, solar panels made from this manufacturer, circuit boards made from this manufacturer, and shells either made from this manufacturer or 3D printed at home, or I'll 3D print them for you.
So you're going to keep all the production local there in Pennsylvania for now, right?
Assembly. I mean, my thinking is, I don't want to be. It's not that I don't want to be a Philadelphia company. This is something we had a conversation about earlier. I love Philadelphia, but I feel like if I were to ship, if I were to sell units in Kenya, why would I assemble them in Philadelphia? Shouldn't I assemble them in Kenya using their local labor? Same way with San Francisco. If I had a large enough market in San Francisco, maybe I would open up a warehouse where I just hired college kids to put these things together all day. It doesn't add that much cost, and it ultimately makes the whole system how it work a lot better.
No, I think that's a very good point you make. I think that local supply. I think if you think about just the places where we're in right now, especially with any other commodity like food, right? Mm. You can make the argument that the transportation cost is a big part of your food increases.
Absolutely.
And you make a very good point that keeping sources local, regardless if it's food or any other kind of product, you'll keep the cost down and make it affordable. continue to make it affordable. So let's talk about the Kickstarter experience. I want to ask you about that, right? You know,
Sure.
You're almost finished. You're at almost the finish line. I think we'll try to, maybe with this interview we'll get you past the finish line. I don't know.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
Wait. So tell me about the experience, and what you think as an entrepreneur of using something like a crowdsourcing model like Kickstarter to get you guys jump started, or some experiences about even the learning more about who wants to use the product and some of the comments.
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of crowdfunding since it first came out. I think the first project I backed on Kickstarter was in 2011. So I've just kind of seen it grow, and I've seen amazing products happen on there. I've also seen ridiculously bad products try and happen on there. So it's a mixed bag. I used to shop around a lot more, and then I kind of, as I got into my own building of a product that I ultimately thought I could put up on a crowdfunding site, I kind of faded off from buying as much. But regardless, you still check on there and you see the innovations that are happening, and it's amazing because these are ideas. Oculus Rift, for example, that's something that probably wouldn't have been developed for another at least 3 years if it wasn't for crowdfunding. If it wasn't just for enough people saying, "Yo, this should exist," and I think this team can do it. All right. So I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to, honestly, I kind of wanted to start a crowdfunding website for a while. That was something I was working on.
Yeah.
But then I was like, let's just build something because ultimately, I'd rather be the product than the marketplace. So, going back to kind of like how SPOR originated, I always had an idea. Once I had that aha moment, I always had the idea that I was going to do a Kickstarter. So I kind of created it for Kickstarter almost. Just the look of it, the cool factor of it with the cables and 3D printing, and kind of just like, hey, this is like Kickstarter wet dream right here. It's just laid out for people. I figured people would like it, and it's a cheap enough price point. It's not, maybe what I underestimated was the extent that the Kickstarter community just likes technology advancement as opposed to process advancement. If that makes sense. So, like I said, if this thing was wireless and it could charge my phone from 20 feet away, I'd probably be a millionaire right now. Because I'm just doing it in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to make it simpler and more affordable for people. I think that it's more of a social back mission, and maybe Kickstarter is not the right platform for that. Maybe like an Indiegogo or something would be a more appropriate platform for it. But overall, the Kickstarter process, it took us a while just to get to the point where we felt comfortable showing what we had. Even just down to taking pictures and the video, for example. Everyone always says, if you just have a good Kickstarter video, you'll be fine. And I mean, I thought our Kickstarter video was awesome. I thought it was probably one of the better Kickstarter videos I've ever seen. So what I can attest to is that it's not all about the video. It really is. It's not. It's much more than that. I wish it was that simple.
I wish it was too, man.
Right? Like these production companies would just be making a killing. But ultimately, I think it's just like the product has to be there at the right moment in time, and it has to just catch someone's eye for whatever reason. I thought that we kind of had enough things in our product line or just in our offering, in our project that would catch eyes. Whether it be the 3D printing or the gooseneck cables or the just the fact that it regenerates itself, and it's also cheaper than almost any charger out there, at least for its power and solar. So, like I said, overall the Kickstarter experience has been good. I don't have too many negative reviews of it. I think if you look into their software, like there could be fixes. It could be a little bit easier to kind of navigate, but those are really small things.
Right.
But what I will say is that and people said this originally when we started, that it is like a full-time job. It's really hard to do a Kickstarter and try and incorporate your business and try and raise funding and try and develop the product and try and build a brand around that and everything from graphics to content building and everything at the same time. So what I would suggest to people getting into it is have multiple of those things already figured out. And we were kind of going into it thinking, we can develop it in the campaign, and it's just not going to happen. It's like you're already caught in that wave. You're already now getting hit with requests for information and interviews and business plans that you don't even have anymore, and product specs and questions and messages, and so it is like a very communication intensive platform. So that's why I say, in the content piece and as far as product development, as much as you can have figured out and explain to people in the easiest terms possible,
right?
Because if you're having to explain your product in the comments, you didn't do a good enough job in the content, I imagine. And we got a lot of questions in our comments that I thought we answered in the content, but maybe second guessing, it's like, oh, I could see how how they didn't fully understand what we were offering, kind of thing. So I think, if anything, the Kickstarter experience has been good. It's just we would probably do it a little bit differently next time to make our lives easier, for sure.
This is a great learning experience for you guys. I mean,
oh, absolutely. And it's great because you get. I think one of the coolest parts about Kickstarter is that you get backing from just people you've never met, and it's a cool feeling because it's like, what does this dude in Belgium care about me in Philadelphia building this product? It's just because for whatever reason, he might like 3D printing, he might like solar energy, he might like he might have just liked our video. Who knows? Like, the fact is, he's a brand supporter now, and we have feet technically on the ground in Belgium or in Germany or in Australia or New Zealand, or we have over 20 countries that from people that have backed us. So it's really inspiring to see that kind of
heck, if you guys got a lot of product coming out here to San Francisco, I'll start assembling them for you. So
no doubt, I'll have to talk to you about that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk.
I'm
an electrical engineer in my background, but marketing. So
you can work a solder gun. So
there you go. I can hold a soldering iron. But anyway, so like since you guys are closing down, and what's your next steps to get to production? You figured all of that. It sounds like you're going to keep it local, which I think is a great model. And how many units does that represent at this point that you guys have at least?
I think we have about 1,200 units. It might be shy of 1,000 if you count for all the people that just wanted cables or just gave money without asking for it. I would estimate around 1,000.
Okay.
So 1,000's kind of 1,000. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's kind of a tricky number as far as manufacturing. So I spent a lot of time before launching the Kickstarter, because it's a hardware product, fully understanding or trying to fully understand the complexities that arise in manufacturing hardware. So everything from import, export to tooling of molds to contracting with manufacturers and contract manufacturers. Intellectual property protection when dealing with China. Like, I basically dissected my product and worked backwards as far as where it started. So I mean, like literally, where do lithium-ion batteries come from? Where's the lithium coming from? Like how are photovoltaic cells made? Who can make a circuit board, right? And what I found, and even USB cables. You would think that USB cables would be a pretty simple supply chain, and they are. It's just there's about 3 places in the world that you can make them, and they're all in Asia. Same way with solar. Really? Same way with solar panels at this scale, at least for this price. And same thing with lithium-ion batteries. I mean, they're all made in Asia. So to answer your question, I think part of my roadmap is going to Asia and securing my supply chain. Yeah,
sounds like you need to be closer to your supply chain. But I mean, the fact that you bring up a very good point. There's a couple of points you brought up which just kind of amazed me when I'm kind of thinking about what you just said. Is one, the supply chain, but also the fact that you're not an engineer. But you're a maker. So it just goes to show you how not easy, but anybody really could start if they want to put their heart into it, like you have, get started. And the
internet's an amazing place.
Right?
The internet is an amazing place.
Absolutely, man.
There's just people that have been there, have done that, and they speak about their experiences. And while one person's experience might not be the end all be all, I think once you start really, really diving into it and seeing the same trends happen over and over again, you can pretty much assume that those things are going to happen to you as well, as far as securing some of these components that you think might be easy to secure, or maybe you think that they're hard to secure, and then you're surprised at how easy it is. But it's just not the way that you thought it was going to be.
Right. Absolutely. Well, you know, the other thing you mentioned that you just said in your comments a little bit earlier that kind of surprised you or made me think is that basic components aren't made here in the United States.
Not at all.
I mean, that like, whoa, you know, that's like a whoa, you know.
I think it was highlighted. What is I'm trying to remember his name. I'm blanking on it now. Jake Bronstein, I believe, with the 10-year hoodie, and he had a Kickstarter. The 10-year hoodie raised like $1 million on Kickstarter. And his whole thing was he was trying to make garments in the U.S. and what he found is that you just can't make it. It wasn't that it wasn't that it was more expensive to make it. You know, it was like you'd have to pay twice as much. That's understandable. It was the fact that you couldn't make it. Like not only the machines, but the skill to how to run the machines and the components that go inside that just weren't available in the United States. Right. So you can imagine if he couldn't make underwear in the U.S., I'm making electronics. Like, it's just not happening unless you really work with where the supply chain is, which, you know, for better or worse, is on the other side of the world.
Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about the team you put together, since you are a maker, but you're not an electrical or a mechanical engineer.
Sure.
You know, talk about the rest of your team. I mean, that's the power of a startup as well, is having a good team you could put together, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I was doing a lot of contracting, and I picked up a lot from that. You know, working with several different electrical engineers, mechanical engineers to help me design the shell. And overall just like people that are familiar with electronics manufacturing. And a lot of that happened through NextFab, which is the makerspace that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So the team that I have, though, so founders, basically, people that are invested in the company now, started with myself and David. I came to David, said, look, I have this idea. I'll lay it out for you. This is how I think it's going to happen as far as small-scale solar. It's going to come online. I think battery technology is going to get better. USB technology is taking off. And he was like, all right, well, then just let me know what you need, I guess. I'd been like partners with David for a couple of years at this point, just on other businesses. And he's like, just let me know when you need help, I guess. So I ended up putting the idea into Drexel's like incubator competition.
Uh-huh.
So it's like a $10,000 competition, and you get all the space and all this stuff. So I put the business. I wrote a business plan up. I told him to look it over. We made some changes together. Then we submitted it, and it got in. We went through a couple, rounds of interviews and stuff together, and then we presented in October and just won. So wow. Dave's probably like one of the best speakers I've ever encountered or ever worked with, and he's just such a passionate dude. So we really did. We won the event pretty. We won the event because of our presentation and because our product. Yeah, our product was cool, but our presentation was kind of there, and our passion was palpable. So we worked on it over the fall. I mentioned to you earlier the product designer that worked with me last spring. So we brought him on to kind of help us clean up the design more and to design us a kind of host of other products, including adapters and things like that. So that was us for a while. And then we launched the Kickstarter, and I'd say, right before the Kickstarter, I found a CTO, because I've been looking for a CTO for the longest time. Okay. And it's just hard sourcing it on a college campus, because, I found amazing engineers who knew what they were doing. Rather, I found two types of engineers. I found engineers that loved what I was doing and had all the time in the world to do it, but I was basically, they were learning on my watch. And it's like I knew more than they did about the product, because they were so focused on school and classwork. Yeah. And then the other engineers were brilliant, and they could do what I was asking them to do, and they had done it before, but they were taking 24 credits or whatever, and they were just not fitting into their schedule.
Oh my God.
So I'm stuck in this ridiculously hard place, which is, all right, use totally unskilled engineering interns, use burnt out engineering students, or contract out engineering to someone who knows what they're doing, which costs a lot of money. So I did every single one of those at some point. And then I found my CTO. I actually found him online. I flew him down to Philadelphia. We hung out. and signed him on. So he's so now he's on as well. His name is Adrian. My product designer name is Troy, and right now we're SPOR. So
wow,
we're a 4-person team.
Hey, that's all right.
We have a couple interns, and we have a couple advisors and things like that. But for the most part, we're the ones keeping it moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's talk about the advisors. Have you, what sort of things have you leaned on your advising group or staff? I guess it's almost kind of like your board of directors if you had a big company or something like that, right?
Yeah. So far, our advisors have been pretty. I won't say hands off, but much more advisors, and not. They haven't been so far, and some of them will be, but not. We haven't signed them on investors. So 2 of our advisors are kind of more on the media side, more on like the startup side, more on the social venture side, and just keeping us on track, keeping us passionate about the idea, keeping us, keeping the message focused, and really what are we trying to bring to the world, kind of thing. And a few of our other advisors are more on the technical side. So I'll lean on them for very technical things as far as, should we use a screw here, or should we use a snap fit, or could we use some sort of, clamping device? It's like there's so many ways to build a product that you really have to work with people who've done it before and understand the pros and cons of each scenario. So that's my advisory board for now. I'm kind of in the market for someone on the energy side. Who can really understand with me or help me understand the way that energy is changing, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. So I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm less in need of a mentor for that, but I'm almost more in need for a mentor for that because I'm just interested in it, and I think I know what I'm talking about. But ultimately, sometimes you find out that you're not as smart as you thought.
I think there's a lot of things to learn from different people. So I think what I could have a takeaway from this interview with you is that I could see that you're very adaptable, which is a very big entrepreneurial characteristic. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So anyway, we'll close off the interview, Jason, and thanks for your time. So how can listeners get a hold of your product on Kickstarter? What do they have to do?
So the only way to get the product right now is on Kickstarter.
Okay.
And the products, so if you wanted to get a SPOR, which is right here, it starts at $50 now. All of our lower tiers kind of went, and what that comes with is that just it comes with a standard USB cable, and it comes with a wall adapter, so you can charge it. Okay. Pledging more will get you different layers of value. So I think for $6 you can get a cable, which is like a fabric cable. For $12 you can get the gooseneck that you see behind me. It's cool to kind of like adjust the product and everything. And then yes, that's pretty much how it works. That's the main unit, like you said. It's really the start of a product roadmap that we kind of lay out in an attempt to kind of make just energy more accessible. It's never there when we're just trying to make it more accessible. So part of our next phase is like solar panels, so larger 5-watt solar panels to charge that. So don't even use the wall, use your own solar panel.
Right.
And then on the lower end, obviously, you're getting devices that can be powered by USB. Right. So having our own stylized LED lights that can just plug right onto the cables, and you can use that or a fan or something. Basically making the energy more useful.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, anyway, like I said, we'll close it off. That was Jason Browne of SPOR, keeping energy accessible through clean energy and other sources. So thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Greg Laurie, a.k.a. Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful out there. Thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. This is Greg Laurie, a.k.a. Social Greg, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks again for joining us, and be careful out there.